What if I told you that you could take ice cream anywhere you wanted and you didn't have to keep it ice cold or in a freezer? If you want to know how, then follow me to my top secret location where I make this all happen.
Now we're just outside my commercial kitchen that I rent, and if you're not familiar with running a freeze drying business, you probably need to know that one, you can run your business as a cottage food operator out of your home, shop, garage, wherever you really want to. And usually states have a cottage food law, which means that you can run it out of your home and you can sell homemade goods. But if you want to expand your product line to TCS type items, it's called temperature controlled substance type items, where you have to have either keep it cold like ice cream, or you have to keep it hot where you've cooked something. That's where the local health district is going to maintain its specific regulations for certain types of businesses, and that's where you have to have a commercial kitchen. Now you can rent that, or you can pay for one and have your own lease spot and pay for all that equipment. But probably the cheapest option that you can do to kind of get yourself immersed in commercial freeze drying is to rent a space like I have right here. And you can find places even with local churches or schools or bars, restaurants, even a commissary, which is a shared commercial kitchen you can find, where you can rent that, keep your freeze dryer there. And the way you find those places is you just actually have to call and ask and email and even contact maybe that health district rep and ask them, hey, do they have any shared commercial kitchens that they are aware of that have that license that you can go rent at? So let's go ahead and go into the commercial kitchen, and I'll share with you about how to freeze dry ice cream. Hey, before we start the freeze drying process, if you are new to this channel, please hit the subscribe bell. I'd love for you to join the freeze drying business community. And also, if you're loving this content, you love freeze dried ice cream, or you just love freezing in general, hit that like and that thumbs up on this video, and that way it gets sent out to the algorithm and make sure everyone else sees this video. Now, I gotta tell you, I am from Boise, Idaho. That's why I'm wearing and representing the Boise State Broncos, home of the Smurf turf. It's a blue field. If you're not familiar with college football, Gene Blameyer, he said, hey, for marketing purposes and for Boise State to get more out there in the nation, let's go with something that we can really transform the field to. And so he decided to purchase a blue AstroTurf, and now we always are grandfathered into having a colored field. That's the history of Boise State having a blue field, and I'm proud to be a Boise State Bronco.
All right, so let's get the freeze dryer settings set up. Now, if you've got the Harvest Right freeze dryer or another brand of freeze dryer, this is the settings that I would always do with freeze drying ice cream, no matter what type of brand you have. We're gonna press customize. We're gonna have the initial freeze be at -10 degrees. You can even go lower than that, but you really don't need to. I just tend to go with -10 just to make sure the ice cream is super frozen. Now, the dry temp is what's important right here. So we need to do the dry mode at normal, and then we also need to set the dry temp to manufacturer settings at 125 degrees. So we really don't need to change that. I wouldn't go anything above that. You could definitely go below. Now, the extra dry time is more of a safety measure. I like to go anywhere between 4 to 6 hours of extra dry time. You can set that baby up to be as long as you want to, but I just stick with 6 hours. We're gonna press save. All right, now that the vacuum chamber is cooling, we're gonna wait for this temperature in the chamber to be under 30 degrees. I usually am more conservative, so I like to make sure that the temperature is well below 20 degrees. So that's what we're gonna wait for the chamber to get cooled down to, and then we'll start scooping the ice cream.
So while that chamber freezes, I'm gonna talk about the process that I found to be the most successful with making sure that you're freeze drying ice cream in the appropriate way, and also getting it passed with your commercial license so that you can start selling that freeze dried ice cream. All right, here's the 4-step process for freeze drying ice cream. If you follow these 4 steps, you're gonna be successful with freeze drying ice cream for your business or for your own personal use. So my method for freeze drying ice cream, it took a while to perfect. And what I learned a lot of is you gotta be really quick with what you're doing. So be very intentional about your time that you're taking to make sure that all of this process is completed, okay? Step number 1 is to prepare ahead of time all of the methods that you need to make this a very quick process. We already went through that. You're gonna make sure that the trays are already in the freezer, okay, so they're nice and cold. You're also gonna make sure, obviously, that the ice cream is already frozen in there. Make sure that your freezer is at -5 degrees or less if you can. That way it's just nice and hard, and it makes it last a little bit longer, as you'll see, with making sure that you're scooping a very solid scoop of ice cream onto the tray. Step number 2 is to make sure that that freeze dryer is down below 20 degrees or less. And that way, when you're putting in the trays, it's already starting to freeze that ice cream that you just scooped. All right, step number 3 is to follow this process that I'm about to tell you about how to work your trays in a very sequencing order. Now, you're gonna start with one tray, it's already frozen, then you're gonna take 1.5 quart of the Tillamook ice cream or whatever size you have. You're gonna scoop all of that ice cream onto the tray. So no matter what freeze dryer you have, you're gonna go through each individual shelf and kind of do a first in, and then it's gonna be the last out, so that that first tray is freezing while you're working on the other trays following up that. And then step number 4 is you're gonna take that first tray that you did, because now it had all that time to freeze at that negative temperature that the freeze dryer is at, and now you've got a freshly frozen tray with half of it filled up with your ice cream, and now you can scoop the rest of your ice cream on that tray to get it maximized and filled up, and then you're gonna put that back in the freezer and then go back up to the rest of your shelves. I only choose Tillamook ice cream just because it's the best, so I choose my huckleberry ice cream because we're from Idaho, and Idaho is known for wild huckleberries, so I always do that. It's a really big seller. Now, the key piece of freeze drying ice cream is you want to pre-freeze your trays right here. So stick all your trays for whatever size freeze dryer you have, put them in the freezer, and make sure you're freezing these for at least 1 to 2 hours to get them nice and cold, because you're going to have a very limited time to scoop all the ice cream and put them on a cold tray. So make sure you do that first. That's very important. All right, as you can see here, it's at 31 degrees. That's the temperature of the chamber right now. I've got the door closed, and I'm not closing the drain valve right now. That's because if I'm trying to open it, it actually could create a little bit of suction. So you don't want to like close the drain valve or anything like that. Just keep it shut. And so it's been running for almost 44 minutes. It's going to take about an hour for it to get down to that 20 degrees, but that's okay. So no matter what, again, you're doing, just try to find something else to do in your business while you're here at the kitchen or while you're at home, and wait for this thing to cool down to 20 degrees. All right, so freeze drying as a business is different for every single state. Some things are very consistent, and most of the things that I talk about on my channel are very general in terms of, hey, if you want to freeze dry lemon heads, if you want to freeze dry fruit, you can go ahead and do that pretty much in any state. The difference is where you do it. Now, I'm in a commercial kitchen, so I have a food establishment permit to run my freeze drying business, and I can run what they call TCS food. So I can run temperature controlled types of food items that would be different than a cottage food operator. That's what I started in. A cottage food operator could only do things like candy in the state of Idaho, fruit, and a couple other different items. So anything that has to be more temperature controlled, for example, ice cream, or something that needs to be kept hot or has been cooked, you couldn't do that in a cottage food operation. Now, some states might be more flexible. You might be able to do more in the cottage food side, and also other states might be more strict. Now, once you have a commercial kitchen, you can submit a menu and show them exactly what you're going to be doing. When you're doing freeze-dried ice cream, one of the things that I had to prove was the activity level for moisture in the freeze-dried ice cream once it was done. And what I did is I took it down into an independent laboratory and had my freeze-dried ice cream tested. I took down every single flavor. I had 4 at the time. And then I also took down my freeze-dried ice cream sandwiches. And they actually give you the water activity for the ice cream that's freeze-dried. Now, every state might have a different guideline for what moisture activity they're going to allow. But for the state of Idaho, it had to be under a certain amount of levels. And so I had that result done, and I still kept all these lab results from 2021. Now, every year when they give me the food establishment review and they come and see my process at this kitchen that I'm at right now, I actually ask them, do you need to see the lab results for the freeze-dried ice cream? Even though maybe in that day I was doing strawberries or candy to show them what I was doing, because sometimes they just randomly drop by. But they said, no, we don't need to see that. But I always have it handy in case they do. And if they needed me to update it, most of these lab results for each individual type of test is about $20. So you're really not out that much, considering this is going to allow you to freeze dry and then sell a lot of items that other people in cottage food wouldn't be able to do. All right, so what type of tools do you need to freeze dry ice cream? Well, it's actually very basic. What you're going to need is a cup of water or something so that you can make sure that you're getting a solid scoop and it's not too hard or compact, and water will really help with that. That way also you can rinse off your scoops. Now, speaking of the scoop, this is a stainless steel cookie scooper, and it actually is a size 100. I don't really know what that means. I know it's less than an ounce in size that you're gonna actually get in volume, but these you can find in links below in the video description. Also, you can just type into Google and look for a stainless steel cookie scooper 100 and you'll find one of these there. I usually have 2 of them just so I can rotate between. I'm probably just gonna stick with the huckleberry ice cream this time around, but if I was gonna go to different flavors, you'd probably wanna have multiple different glasses of water so that you're not mixing the different flavors in the same water. But because I'm going to just do huckleberry, then I can just use the same one. Now you do want to get some gloves if you have them on hand, but I pretty much like having the gloves just so I don't get all the milk and the ice cream on my hands, and I can just go to town and start scooping the ice cream really fast, which I'm going to show you. Now it comes time. This is the big show. So we got to be very quick when we take out this tray that's already frozen, as well as the ice cream. We're going to go to town. I love that term. And we're gonna start scooping all that half quart of Tillamook ice cream onto the tray. Again, this tray is frozen, and I've done this process enough to where you have enough time to get all this ice cream out of here. Now, I do need to get on some gloves, and this just allows you to just not get that ice cream on there. I'm not trying to make it too intimidating for you, but you do need to work very quickly so that you make sure you're maximizing the coldness of your tray and the ice cream. Okay, so let's get started. Now, sometimes this ice cream is actually soft enough to where you can just scoop it right on the tray. And I like having a table that's low enough like this so I'm not having to reach like this and scoop. That really is hard on the wrist. So the little bit lower of the table you can make it, the better. Now I'm gonna just do this quart and talk a little bit. So if you want to fast forward, you can, but I'm just gonna do this quart, talk about the ice cream, and then I'll show you me putting it in the tray. And then I'll put a little time lapse, show you all the different trays in there so you don't have to watch me scoop everything. As you can see, you can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 scoops vertically on this tray. And then we're just gonna go down the line. And I keep these as compact as possible so that you can maximize how much you're getting on the tray. This is still pretty hard ice cream right now, so I don't really need to use the water. If it was really hard, for example, I like doing chocolate peanut butter ice cream from Tillamook. That can be a little bit harder of an ice cream. So I will go and use the water to kind of soften up my scooping so I'm not having to dig too hard. Huckleberry ice cream is super delicious. Whether you've had huckleberry jam or you've had any type of huckleberry flavored vodka or anything like that, it's really delicious. So I try to make sure that I have every scoop hitting some type of that puree that's in this ice cream. As you can see now, it's only been maybe a minute or two, but I've been able to do 4 vertical rows right now, or vertical columns. Now, if you're wondering how much I paid for ice cream, and then let's talk about the pricing for ice cream. Now, it is a high value product because look how much labor I'm going into putting into doing this. I charge $12 for about 3 ounces net of freeze-dried ice cream. Now, in my bags, I can fit about probably 14 to 15 of these individual scoops because they don't really expand that much. So we're getting down to the last little bit of these 1.5 quarts. And I'll tell you something, it gets softer as you go. As soon as it becomes a little bit too melty, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. See how it's kind of melting right here? This is not a good scoop. So I'm gonna kind of dump it back and see if I can get something a little bit harder in the last little bit, which I did. It is a judgment call. So I'm done now. I'm gonna place this ice cream here. We're done with this quart. And now we're gonna put this tray into the freeze dryer. Okay. Now scooping that half of that tray took about maybe 3 to 4 minutes. So multiply that by 2, you're looking at about probably 7 to 8 minutes per tray to fill it up with freeze-dried ice cream. So it is about an hour-long process to scoop everything. Also, you got to remember your wrist can get a little bit tired too, which mine does. So this is a very tedious process. But I'm going to scoop the rest of the ice cream. I'll show you what it looks like putting it all in, and then I'll show you what the process looks like for getting this first tray out that we just did. right, all 5 trays are in. Now it's time for the second phase of this, which we're gonna take that first tray that we did on the bottom shelf, we're gonna bring it back out here, and we're gonna load it up with as much ice cream as we can fill it. That way we maximize the capacity and the production out of this freeze dryer for all the ice cream that we've done. If you're excited about freeze drying ice cream and you like this video so far, please give it a thumbs up. It's really gonna help me and the video for future people who are gonna be searching for how to freeze dry ice cream or just wanna know what freeze dried ice cream is all about. I'd really appreciate it. All right, so we're gonna get the ice cream out first out of the freezer. Now we're gonna get the tray out of the freeze dryer, and we're probably gonna end up using this entire 1.5 quart again. Take this time right now and subscribe to this channel, because I'm really hoping that this community really connects itself together in the future. That could happen this year as of this video, it could happen in future years, but I really want you guys all who are watching this, who love freeze drying and have a business, or if you just want to love the freeze drying industry, follow along. All the people that are watching this, I'd love to connect with you, and also leave a comment if you have a different process for freeze drying ice cream, or if you have questions, please let me know. I do try to do my best to answer the comments as best as I can. All right, as you can see, I'm really filling up this tray. It's looking really nice. All these previous scoops already are frozen. The freeze dryer right now is at 10 degrees. So all of these are already frozen. That's why this process is really important for you to follow. Scooping this ice cream, you're putting a lot of pressure on your hand and your wrist. If you have pain on your wrist, you're just not gonna be able to do freeze dried ice cream yourself. Now you could hire other people if you want to, but it is taxing on the hand. I do my ice cream in my freeze-dried business for a limited time. I only do 4 flavors. I do huckleberry, chocolate peanut butter, cookies and cream, and then strawberry ice cream. They seem to just always be what people want. Sometimes I will venture out and I'll do the orange vanilla cream Tillamook ice cream that comes out sometimes. Now I'm not gonna do a full tray's worth of all 5 just because I actually really don't have that much time right now. As of this video that I'm recording, it's like 10:30 at night. It's my only time to get videos done. It's late. I don't really feel like getting too much less sleep given I have some young kids. So now this is a fully loaded tray. This is gonna produce at least 8 to 10 bags of ice cream. So, you know, that's gross sales wise, that's $100 to $120 tray right there of freeze dried ice cream, given that I'm charging $12 retail. That's not the wholesale prices that I give, but that's freeze dried ice cream. Now, if you are new to freeze drying or you want to buy a freeze dryer, I'd really appreciate if you use the affiliate link for Harvest Dried or Stay Fresh in the links below in the video description. I own both of those freeze dryers. My preferred freeze dryer is the Harvest Dried as of this video, because they offer the largest freeze dryers right now to produce the most capacity. And when you're running a freeze drying business, you're gonna realize quickly either you're gonna have to increase the amount of freeze dryers that you have, or you're gonna have to upgrade to something larger so that every run produces the maximum amount of capacity. So that's the process for my successful freeze drying ice cream process. Now we're gonna let the freeze dryer do its thing. We'll come back and we'll see what the end result is. Now, when you're freeze drying ice cream and it's done with its cycle, one of the things you're gonna have to figure out is whether it's done. And the best way to do that, I found, is to do some taste testing. I haven't really had any trouble with it not drying properly, especially in my Harvest Dried freeze dryer. So I'm gonna do a tray. We're gonna test ones that are in the middle, and we're gonna test one that's on the outsides as well, to see if it's dry with some taste testing. Now also, the freeze dryer is not quite in the defrost option. The reason I keep it at the mode right here where it says process complete is I have the option to either defrost or no defrost, or continue doing some additional final dry. So in the case that I find that the ice cream isn't done and I find some cold spots in those taste tests, then I'm gonna add more dry time, probably at least 6 to 8 hours of final dry time just to be sure. And then you can take them back out and do another taste test. So that's why I keep it in this mode and I don't immediately go to the defrost mode, so that I can put it back into the final dry. Hey, before we do the taste test, if you are interested in freeze drying more products, I want to show you the next video that I'm going to be doing, which is how to freeze dry ice cream sandwiches. In that video, I show you exactly the type of brand to buy. I show you how to prepare it and cut it up into bite-sized pieces that's perfect for selling it in your freeze-dried bags for your freeze-drying business. I'd encourage you to check out that video after this. And then also I've shared it in the video description below. Make sure you subscribe as well, and you'll be notified of more future videos that I'm going to be coming out with on how to freeze dry and how to get better at your freeze drying business. All right, let's taste test the freeze dried ice cream. So good. Super crunchy. It still has that milky type of taste to it, where you've got the milk type of ice cream flavor, and then that puree of the huckleberry just hits you again as well. This is why I love freeze dried ice cream. All right, now let's try the chocolate peanut butter. If you can see this, it still has the peanut butter in it, but it makes it a little bit creamy, and then you've got the chocolate. This is so delicious. Now with the creaminess of this peanut butter, what I typically do is I let the freeze dryer get cool enough, down to like 50, 40 degrees, just so it kind of keeps the peanut butter a little bit more compact and kind of frozen up. And then that way it's not super creamy and doesn't get on the bags, on the kind of the inside of it, and dust the bags with a little bit more peanut butter, right? So if it's already kind of compact from being somewhat, cooled down and not hot, then you don't have as much messiness when you're bagging the chocolate peanut butter type. You got to try different flavors, try things that you think would be very flavorful and impactful for your community and your customers. Have some fun with it. But that's how to freeze dry ice cream. Now, if you're interested in how to package it and what you should be putting on your ingredients, I do have a video after this about the 8 common questions about packaging, which I cover the same types of things that you would put on freeze-dried ice cream bags, but it's more related to candy. So go ahead and check out that video, and I'll see you there.